Well, let's discuss preparation. Preparation is so important if you're going to make a good, consistent swing. If you're going to build a solid house, you have to have a solid foundation, and so it is with the golf swing. I see most people's problems happen at address. In other words, if we can get them set up to the ball correctly, it allows them to make a good swing. If you have a poor address position, which consists of your grip, your posture, your alignment, and your ball position, if those things are out, you're very unlikely to make a good swing. And the reason is that the swing consists of balance. Remember, we're facing a stationary ball. We have to make the movement really from a very stationary position at address. Now, if we're out of balance, we're out of position, we're going to have to make compensations. And the more compensations you make, the more inconsistent you're going to be. Just as simple as that. Now, what does a preparation consist of? Well, there's really 4 key areas. One is your grip, how you position your hands on the club. Because remember, your hands really control ultimately where the club face is when you make contact with the ball. So if we have a poor grip, it doesn't allow us to A, get the club face square, but B, it also doesn't allow the power to work itself through the arms and hands down into the club head. So we've got to get our hands positioned properly on the club. That's all important. The second thing we've got to do, we've got to get our posture right. The way we angle our body really determines how the body moves during the swing. You know, we've got a big arc to swing the club through. And also, we've got to create a lot of power. Now, if our body's out of position or out of balance, it's very tough to make this repetitive swing. We've got to coil, we've got to wind. In actual fact, these angles that we create for ourselves at address are ones that we have to try to maintain all through the swing, certainly up to impact. If our angles are changing, the club is moving out of position. If the club moves out of position, we've now got to compensate once again. So we're trying to eliminate compensations. The third aspect really to preparation is really talking about alignment, the way we aim. First of all, the club face, getting the club aimed at our target, and secondly, our body. That consists of our toe line, knee line, hip line, shoulder line, and also eye line. Getting these all parallel to our target line is absolutely vital if we're going to hit the ball to our target. Once again, if I'm aiming incorrectly, I've got to make compensations in order to get that club face square at impact. And everything we're doing is to get the club face square at impact, traveling at maximum speed down our target line. Now, the final aspect of preparation really is the ball position. Where we position the ball in our stance. If we position it back on one swing and then forward on another, obviously we're not going to hit the ball consistently. And you're going to see consistency is what we're looking for. Consistency is what everybody's looking for. If we're going to hit an iron in a consistent manner, we have to put it in such a position that, hey, we hit down on the ball. We're squeezing the ball off the turf. If we're going to hit a driver consistently, we've got to put the ball forward in our stance where we can actually sweep the ball off the tee. So all these elements are so important to make a good swing. If we can get this aspect right where we have control over it, remember, we don't have control over the rest of our swing because it's in actual fact in motion, but we have control over our address position. And if we can get set up to the ball correctly, prepare ourselves to hit the ball, we've got a good chance of making that consistent, repeating swing. Ben Hogan once made the statement that good golf begins with a good grip, and I'm a firm believer of that. The way you position your hands on the club determines the way the club head comes back to the ball. So many golfers have poor grips that they have poor fundamentals in their swing as a result. So very important to get your hands positioned correctly on the club. What I see generally with most golfers is they grip the club way too much up in the palm. As a consequence, they grip it very tight, their tension is wrong, they create a lot of tension up through the arms and the shoulders, and it doesn't allow them to swing the club smoothly. Furthermore, if you have the club up in the palm, as many golfers do, I would say probably around the world, maybe 75 to 80% of golfers have this problem, it doesn't allow them to really use their wrist correctly in the swing. If you want to get good wrist action where you can then transfer the power from your body through your arms and wrists into the club, well, you've got to position your hands correctly. Remember, your hands control where the club face is when you make contact with the ball. So what we see generally with so many golfers, we see what we term a palmy grip, also a very weak grip. In other words, that means the hands are too far round to the left on the club. For those of you that are right-handed, you can picture that. The hands around here in this fashion here, we work them around in a sort of a counterclockwise fashion, and that would be termed a weak grip. If we work the hands around this way in a clockwise fashion to an exaggerated extent, that's termed a strong grip. What we're trying to get for most players is what we term a neutral grip. Okay, getting a neutral position allows the club face to come back squarely to the ball. Now, there are basically three types of grips. The conventional grip is called the Varden grip or the overlap grip, whereby the little finger of the right hand, for right-handers, fits just on top of the knuckle, the index finger of the left hand. That joins those two together. There's the interlocking grip, where the little finger joins in with the index finger to keep the hands working as a unit. And then finally, for some players, a weaker player, a player with not much strength or flexibility, we even suggest what they term the baseball or the double-handed grip. The most important thing is that the hands work together as a unit and are parallel on the club with one another. We don't want one hand here and one hand here, or vice versa, one hand here and one hand here. We want to try to get the hands matching. It's a parallel situation we're trying to create, where the left hand, where we see a couple of knuckles on the left hand, the right hand, they sort of match one another, and I'm now in a position where I feel I'm in a nice relaxed position to be able to swing the club. So we've got to get the hands positioned correctly on the club to allow the club head to get squarely back to the ball on contact. One of the things that we have control over in the swing is our address position. In other words, that consists of the grip, the posture, the ball position, and the alignment. And one of the most important features of that address position is the posture. The way we position our body at address really, to a large extent, determines how we swing the club, because, you know, a good golf swing consists of good balance. And when we're swinging the club at a great speed, it's important that we have good balance. So if we're not in good balance at address, we're not likely to be in good balance when we swing the club. So we've really got to set ourselves in a position where we have our feet firmly planted on the ground, a little bit of knee flex, a little angle from the hips. I want to see my back fairly straight here and my neck relax. So I'm in a position where I'm in a very what I would term athletic position at address. And this allows me then to sort of turn, and hopefully the angles that I've created at address, I maintain those angles through the swing. If I lose my angles, very difficult to be consistent. So consistency is the theme, no question, for most golfers, or in fact for every golfer. So we've got to get consistent at address. We've got to get this balance such that, hey, the weight is on the balls of the feet, not too much on the heels, not too much on the toes. We want to be comfortable. Certainly, everybody's build is a little different. I'm tall, I have to get down to the ball a little bit more. Shorter people, they don't have to have quite as much flex as I do. But really, we've got to get the body in a good position at address. And not only that, not only the body, but we also have to have the arms relaxed, because if you're too tense here, it's very difficult, once again, to make a smooth swing. So relaxing is important. The arms have to be in a nice relaxed position when we address the ball. And our hands pretty much have to hang just somewhere just under the chin. Now it varies a little bit depending on the club that we're using, but in effect, the longer the club, the more we tend to stand a little bit more erect. The shorter the club, like a wedge or a 9-iron, we're going to be a little bit more over it. But you don't really have to think about that. The whole idea is that you get in good balance, you're in a position from where you can move, and that'll allow you to make a good turn back and a good turn through. You know, if I'm going to aim a rifle at a target, okay, and I'm aiming right at the camera here, and I'm aiming over there, not likely to hit my target, am I? Well, the important thing, if you want to hit your target, you've got to aim, silly. So it's not that easy to aim in golf. The problem is we're standing to the side of the ball. When we stand to the side of the ball, we've got the club face, and we've also got our body. If I had a rifle, I've got the rifle and my body almost on the same line, and I'm looking right at it. But it certainly is a more difficult task when I'm standing to the side. So the first key really is we've got to get this club face square to our target. The most important thing is aiming the club face where we want to go. If we can aim the club face where we want to go, in other words, we get this at 90 degrees at right angles to our target, that goes towards the target. Our body then goes parallel left of it. So in other words, I've got the one line out here, which is my target line, where the club face is aimed. I've got the other line across my toes, one across my knees, one across my hips, shoulders, and even my eyes. These lines have to be parallel to that target line. The error that we see with so many golfers is that they put their feet down and try to aim their feet at the target. As a consequence, they seem to have the feet in one direction, the hips and the shoulders in another. And to be consistent, you really do have to get yourself lined up and aimed. That's one element that we have control over. It takes a little bit of work, and sometimes it feels a little bit strange. Sometimes it may be an optical illusion. We're aiming in one direction and hitting to another, but yet it is so important to get yourself aimed. You find that the top players in the world, that's something they're constantly working on, to make sure that their club face and their body are aimed in the right direction. So the club face has to be aimed first. We then put our feet down, knees, hips, shoulders, everything then parallel to that target line. And I say, if we can get that feeling of a railway track, then we're in business. So remember, club face first, body second, and the body in actual fact for a right-handed golfer is actually aimed to the left of my target. So I'm actually aiming at the tree down in the distance. So my club face is aimed at 90 degrees to it. And then I've got my body in a position which matches that. If I can do that, that's one of the ways that we can be very, very consistent and build a repeating swing. Okay, I'm going to show you the greatest trick shot in golf, how to hit 3 balls with 3 clubs at the same time. Only kidding. This is to show you ball position, because ball position, once again, really is something that we have to establish and do consistently. There are different thoughts on ball position, but generally speaking, with the driver, you want the ball forward in your stance towards your left heel. We want the middle to long irons a little further back, as I'm describing here with the second club. And the short irons are pretty much going to be in the middle of my stance. Now the reason for this is the following. With the driver, we're trying to hit the ball on the upswing. Consequently, you put the ball forward in your stance. With the short irons, you're really trying to hit the ball on the downswing and squeeze that ball off the turf, taking a nice solid divot. The longer and middle irons, we want somewhere in between. Not too sweepy, not too steep. So generally, if you've got 3 ball positions, that is one way that you can find you can create consistency. Now, another thing that I generally see, people who slice the ball have the ball too far forward, almost trying to allow for that slice. People who hook the ball, generally better players, they have the ball too far back in their stance. Because they're coming so far from the inside, that's the best position to attack the ball from. So to get consistent, you really want to have a situation like this where maybe you put a ball just inside your heel for a driver and try to get the ball you're trying to hit right opposite it. And it allows you then to get the feeling that, hey, you've now got to a position where you can hit the ball in the correct position. I would say, generally speaking, good players should have the ball further forward in their stance. High handicap golfers want to have the ball further back. No matter what, though, you need to do it consistently. So hopefully this shows you where the ball should be positioned for these 3 types of clubs.